Prairie Yard and Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yackel Jolene, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHill.org.
Many of you may have seen me attending spring gardening days. It is so much fun to attend plant educational seminars and also to visit other people's yards and gardens. We have so many great gardeners in the upper Midwest, and it is nice to learn new things and maybe even see some things we can try in our own yards. Today, Prairie Yard and Garden is going to visit with one of those great gardeners. She is a wealth of knowledge as she grows some prairie plants in her yard along with many other plants, and then has another special garden too. Prairie, Yard, and Garden. We'll enjoy this visit. Several weeks ago, I went on a tour with my local garden club. We had a wonderful day and enjoyed seeing many great plants in several special gardens. One of those very nice stops was to Canby, Minnesota, where we visited with Jody Olson. She was gracious to let us come back so we can share her yard and creekside garden with all of our Prairie Yard and Garden viewers too. Thanks, Jody, for letting us come visit.
Thank you, Mary. It's an honor to have you here today.
Tell me, Jody, how long have you been gardening and how did you get interested in plants and gardening?
I really can't answer it. I think it's always been there. It's in my genes. My dad was involved in Minnesota Crop Improvement Association, and the family story is that he grew the first soybeans grown in Minnesota in his grandma's garden in 1918. But in the 30s and 40s, he was doing hybrid seed corn. And then after my husband and I were married, after both graduating from the University of Minnesota, and we had our own home, then we started our own gardens.
Now, are you a master gardener too?
I am a master gardener. This is my 28th year.
When you built your home, one of the things that when we came that I noticed is that you have this beautiful walking path. How did that come about? We had some blocks that you have down as a walking path.
Well, early on, the area just right in front of the house was just a rectangular square, and it's too big to crawl into the middle. So we divided it by a semicircular path, which gave an outside border, and then down the center of the smaller area, over the years, we've had evergreens and other things. So essentially, there's kind of three borders that are easier to access and to plant.
Now, do you have unusual trees and shrubs here in your yard or in this part of the yard too?
Yes, we do. We're standing beneath a ginkgo biloba, and that's been here probably 30 years or more. It's a unique tree because they call it the dinosaur tree. They found the leaf as a fossil, and then they found the actual tree in northern China. And this has been long enough years ago so that they discovered it was very pollution resistant. And so it's been planted along highways in California and other places. And we've had ours for quite a while. Now this is a male tree because the female tree with its seeds are very odorous. They smell.
When we also came in, I saw what looked like a pear tree. Do you actually have a pear tree in your yard?
We do. It's the variety Luscious, South Dakota introduction, and we've had that many years as well. And the pears are just now getting just about ripe. The squirrels are testing them for us now.
Does it bear a lot each year, or is it kind of where one year, kind of like an apple tree, you know, it'll produce more one year and then fewer the other years?
We haven't noticed that so much with the pear tree, that every other year thing that I know is true of apples. The pear tree is very dependent on frost, and it blooms early, and if the frost is late and there's no or few blossoms, then you have few pears. Okay. If the spring is such that the blossoms don't get frozen, then you have more pears. Oh, I'm very proud of our Korean boxwood that we bought from the Arboretum back when it was just there was that small building on the 3 Mile Drive. They were selling some plants. And so this would have been in the early 60s, and we bought Korean boxwood plants. And they stay green all winter, although it's a dusky green. They blossom early, so there's something for the pollinators. And then the seed pods form, and on a hot day in July, the seed pods explode, and these little black seeds go all over the yard, and of course have grown up, and so we've given them away and transplanted them other places. It's a very nice shrub, Korean boxwood.
I also saw some flowers on the other side of the sidewalk where we walked in. Do you start a lot of flowers yourself, and then do you start them from seed or from cuttings, or both?
Both. The ones that you saw were 4 kinds of salvia. They were part of the Master Gardener trials that they do every year that I've been involved in. And so I started those seedlings indoors, transplanted them twice, and then transplanted it outside. And they were to be part of a pollinator experiment, but some of the direct-seeded alyssum did not work. I don't do an awfully lot of container gardening, but my daughter is kind of taken with coleus, and she has done a good job of growing the coleus every year, and then she takes cuttings in the fall and then second cuttings in March or April to grow plants for outside. This year I think she had 27 little baby coleuses that have now grown to be, and so that's kind of her specialty. I've done cuttings of geraniums, and I've done a lot of seeding. I like to grow seedlings in the house, and over the years we grew lots of seedlings.
I sometimes think it makes the winter go faster, don't you?
Oh yes, and you can control conditions a little better.
Mm-hmm.
In this part of Minnesota we have wind and rain early and dry later, and so you have to work it out.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that there was this beautiful blue basket back behind us too, and a lot of people might not know what that is. Now you called it, what was the name you called it?
Well, Dancing Lady.
Okay, and I've known it as Streptocarpellus, so it must be that's the variety that you have, but it's very pretty. And has that bloomed all summer for you?
Yes, but it also blooms in the winter. We keep it, we have it on lights in the winter, and then we move it out in the summer.
Okay.
And it's easy to take cuttings from that and grow. So it's a fun one to grow, and we've shared it with others.
Okay, so you can keep that growing, and plus it's a gift that keeps on giving then too.
Yes, it does.
I noticed that along your pathway you had some spring ephemerals too. What are spring ephemerals, and what kinds do you have there?
Spring ephemerals, next to grasses, are my favorite things to grow.
Okay.
They come up early in the spring before the leaves are out on the trees because they take advantage of that early spring sunshine. And there's special ones, jack-in-the-pulpit, mayapple, bellwort or uluveria, wild ginger. And I kind of like to, I'm kind of a tolerant gardener. I like to have things come up elsewhere. And then it comes up far enough for, then I can identify it and decide whether I want to keep it or move it to somewhere else.
Well, and I thought I even saw some jack-in-the-pulpit, some seeds that were formed too, yes. So you must have a couple of those in there too. Those beautiful red berries are so showy. But then, you know, they kind of disappear because they're spring ephemerals. And so do you plant other things there too so that they can grow, or that they get covered up and still have something pretty there after they die down?
Hostas are a good choice for that because they come up later, and so the hostas work. But also in the woodland garden, there's meadow rue and Solomon's seal and starflower Solomon's seal and some blue indigo and a few other things that, yes, come up in place of the ones that have died, because you can't find them after they've disappeared.
Right. So I was going to say, those probably aren't anywhere around right now, but you still have a beautiful yard, so you have all of these things that have come up to take their place.
You would have to come back in the spring to see the spring ephemerals.
Well, we might just have to do that too. Jody, you said something about that you've got an interesting grass area. I think you called it something like a low mole grass. Would it be possible to go and see that too?
Yes, let's go see there.
Okay. This is the most beautiful color grass. What is this?
Mary, we're standing in this section of my yard which is planted with low-grow, no-mow grass. And this is the 4th year for it, and it's designed to be less maintenance. It's 6 kinds of red fescue, and when I started this, this area was a vegetable garden, and we rounded up and rototilled it, and then planted in the fall to come up in the spring. And then when it came up in the spring, we hand weeded until it got established. But you can see it's about 6 inches long and lays over, and it's soft, and it's been mowed now twice this year, once early, kind of to, as high as you can, mow it as high as you can, once early to take care of the debris, and then once after when it's blooming to take the seed pods off. And I will mow it one more time this fall before winter. But that's only 3 times in the whole season. And it fills this area. It was becoming too much for me to garden, so this is low maintenance but attractive and green, and I'm very fond of it.
And then I see we're standing close to some raspberries here too. Do you have more than one kind of raspberry?
I do. These are the July-bearing raspberries. They bear on last year's canes, and now those that are done with their crop for this year have been cut out, and so the canes that are there are growing for next year. Back in another part of the garden, I have some that are bearing raspberries now. And those are cut to the ground every year. They bear on this year's growth. They aren't as good flavor, but they're fresh raspberries at a different season.
Jody, you have so much nice shade here too, and this is an unusual tree. What is this?
This is a Kentucky coffee tree, and it's one that's recommended to plant instead of the green ash, which, as you know, is under attack by the beetle. It has formed itself into kind of a grove from the roots, and it has a unique leaf that's called a double compound leaf that is very attractive.
Well, and it's so pretty, like you said, with the leaves that are on there, it's almost like a filtered sunlight.
Yes.
Very beautiful tree. And I saw that you have some beautiful grasses. Would it be okay if we take a look at some of those too?
I'd like to. Mary, we're standing by a Miscanthus sinensis. It's taller than you are, and can sometimes be taller than that depending on the moisture. Behind you is a Miscanthus gigantica that does not bloom in our area because we're too far north. Okay. But these are some of the tall grasses that I have, but these are not native.
Okay.
And I have some native ones that are tall also in another place.
Jody, how do you care for these grasses in the spring and in the fall?
Well, Mary, grasses are such a nice plant to grow because they have few insects and disease problems. So they grow all during the year. You let them grow all winter, and they're lovely as a winter color. And then in the spring, you cut them down to, 6 inches, and then they come up again. So very easy to take care of.
Wow, so all of this growth is from one season.
Yes.
I saw that there was a beautiful vine that we came in, where we came in too. What was that?
Well, behind you, Mary, is something called wisteria, which down south has lovely lavender blooms that hang down. And this is a variety called Blue Moon, which will survive in our climate. And right now it's got seed pods on it. And it does like to grow again in the garden. But it's kind of unique, and so the variety that will live here is called Blue Moon.
Okay.
At our feet are some blue oatgrass and some blue fescue, and they're shorter grass. And then I also have some sweetgrass that's spread, but it's a very nice grass too.
And that one gets its name because it smells so sweet.
Yes.
I know, I like
Yes.
that too, but it is pretty. Can be aggressive though.
Yes, it can.
Oh, and then look at how this beautiful rose is right here. Which one is this?
Our very best rose is Winnipeg Parks, and it gets pruned and it repeat blooms during the season and now late into the fall. And we do not do anything special to our roses. We don't cover them or other than pruning some in the fall and in the spring and then as the season goes along. But we don't cover any of our roses or treat them specially. They're all shrub roses.
So it just makes it right through the winter safe and
Yes.
sound. And the thing, you know, we've had quite a bit of rain this season, and I don't see any black spot on the leaves at all. The leaves are still so pretty. You said this one was which one?
Winnipeg Parks.
Okay. Wow, what a beautiful rose. You mentioned too now that you have some native grasses too.
Yes,
Could we see those?
yes.
Jody, this is a beautiful area here that you have. What is this? What are these grasses?
This is my tallgrass prairie, Mary. So this is big blue stem, or they call it turkey tracks, with as the seed pods form kind of a triangle. And this you'll see on the roadsides. This is a basic grass of the prairie of our area.
Okay. And then I saw this one too. What is this one?
Well, that's a bottle brush grass, which is also a prairie grass that will grow in the shade. These will grow in the sun. And in this same area, I have about 10 other kinds of things. There's a kempis plant, lead plant, prairie roses, echinacea or coneflower, and a few others. So it is kind of developed into a native prairie area in town.
Okay. And I was going to say, I'll bet you this has taken a while to get to looking so beautiful.
It's probably 10 years because the grasses have spread themselves and I've let other things grow. And then here again, back to the grasses. These are cut off in the spring, and this whole area is covered with Virginia bluebells, which are now all down there in the soil. And so it's a sequence of things where there's certain things in the spring, and then as the grasses replace those, and then they're now the way you see them in September.
This is beautiful too. And I see you have some grapes right behind me. Are these for making wine or juice?
Lots of years they're for the birds.
Okay.
It's a grapevine that's been there as long as the house has been, over 50 years. And I'm not sure of the variety. They might be Beta, they might be John Swenson.
They're also a very, very nice size grape though too. I mean, they're good for eating, they must be.
Yes, yes.
I see.
They're good for eating for us as well as birds.
Okay. Then do you have any other grasses besides, you showed us some beautiful tall grasses over there. You have a tall grass prairie. Do you have others too?
Yes, I have another section. It's a part of the lot that's quite dry and sandy, more sandy than this section on this side of the house. And so that's where I have the short grass prairies, the little blue stem, and the blue grama and side oats grama and hairy grama and buffalo grass. But that's a different kind of location. It gets more sun, a different kind of sun, and the soil is different.
Oh, okay. Now, you also have an interesting area inside your house too, don't you? That tell us about that.
Well, when the house was built, part of it is on a cement slab, so there's a hole in the cement slab. And so we have plants growing in pots because it was too hard. It's like a big flower pot, but it worked out best to have them growing on pallets in pots. And so we have a number of indoor plants of various kinds. They are philodendrons and dracaena and dieffenbachia and some rubber plants.
So you can enjoy those all winter long.
Yes, we can.
Oh, wow. You also have another garden in another location too. Would it be possible to go and see that?
Yes, we can. I'd like to.
I have a question. When is the right time to pick grapes to make wine?
When it gets to be about this time of year, around harvest time, the biggest question is understanding when is the right time to pick the grapes. And there's a number of factors that go into making this kind of a decision. I guess one of the main things is understanding the sugar of the grape, the sugar content, and along with that you want to know what the acid is doing inside that grape so that those two can balance each other and provide a nice flavorful grape, but also give it some good structure. As you can see here, between the white and the red variety of grapes, the red grapes are going to have a little darker skin color, and the white grapes are going to stay a little bit whiter, of course, and maybe a little bit more green, depending on how much sun they were exposed to. So it can be tricky to understand what's really ripe. But in the field, one of our main tools that we can do to understand this is take a refractometer and take a little drop of juice and put that on a refractometer, and that'll read out basically the percentage of sugar in what we call Brix, a percent Brix. So I'll just grab a little berry here, and I got my refractometer here, and we'll take this little grape and squeeze a drop or so, maybe a couple of drops, and we will do this with a number of different berries in the field just to get an idea what the average of our crop is looking like. And now when I look through, that reads out a number in there. These are a late ripening variety, so they're sitting at about 16% sugar at this moment. And hopefully within a few more weeks we'll be able to gain another 4 or 5 points, Brix, and we'll be at 22 or 23 with these, and they should be ready to harvest at that point.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
Mary, this is a special place for me. This is a memorial garden in honor of my husband, Dr. Robert Olson, that practiced medicine here for 43 years. And we used the memorial money and family money and then the hospital money to develop this garden from what was actually overgrown, weedy, empty space, not an official dump, but was used as a dump.
How did you pick this place?
Well, the hospital district had purchased part of this land and took down a house in order to build a parking lot. And the rock spillways for the water coming off the parking lots were already here. But this was just an overgrown area, and it seemed to me that with my interest in native plants that it was a nice woodsy area and could be developed for something. But I just discovered I couldn't do it by myself. And then we were able to purchase the little house next door, which is used for the weekend physicians to come. And so then we had more property, and so we went about, and the Snortum Nursery folks, Dar Snortum and his son Pete, worked with designing a plan. And we cleared it out and planted it as you see it today.
I see that you have some native plants and some non-native plants in here too, right?
Yes, then that's kind of interesting because it came about because of my interest in the native plants, but Dar Snortum that did the plantings is a nurseryman, so he knew the shrubs. So it's a mix of both things. There's Jack in the Pulpit, and there's some lungwort and a cardinal flower, as well as all kinds of shrubs.
I see that there was a big cement abutment back here.
Yes. The story of that is very interesting because behind us, and you can hear trucks going by now as we speak because we're tucked around a corner from Highway 75 coming into Canby.
Okay.
And the former highway was just behind us crossing Canby Creek. So on this upper level are the former abutments of the bridge that was there at that time that crossed Canby Creek at this site.
When you design this and put it in, who keeps it up?
Well, the maintenance is a shared maintenance because if you give a gift to someone, you have to remember that someone has to take care of that gift. Whether it's a garden that you give in memory of someone or something to a museum, you have to remember that someone has to maintain that, whether it's in a building or whether it's cared for, and gardens especially need care. So yes, the hospital district that owns this land and the property has a big part in the maintenance, the mowing, and so on. But I do take responsibility for some, a share of the maintenance. And Darce Nordham, who planned it, still works down here every year, though he's 90 years old, to help maintain it. Because gardens don't stand still.
Okay.
They have to be maintained. And this is about not quite 10 years old. So over the years, we've discovered what grows in the shade and what will grow in the sun. And we have this big cottonwood tree behind us, that in front of us actually, that we'll see as a base.
It is beautiful. When we walked down here, I admired that beautiful cottonwood tree, and it's just covered with ivy. I'll bet you that is so beautiful in the fall when that changes color.
Yes, it is. The site has been used by photographers for graduation pictures. We have had a wedding down here, and it's people from the staff from the hospital can bring their lunch here. Dairy Queen's just around the corner. And I also think that someone who might have someone in the hospital and is waiting for the birth of a child or waiting for someone, this is kind of a meditative place. It has a feeling of meditation. And I do have to add that it's by Canby Creek purposely, because water is an attraction. Mary, have you ever seen an ad for anything, whether it's a city or a resort or anything, that didn't have a fountain or a lake or a waterfall or some kind of a water feature? We're drawn to water. And this was just an opportunity to use that meditating effect of water in a little garden that's kind of tucked in a corner and is a memorial garden.
Jody, to me it seems like you have had this wonderful lifetime of gardening and enjoyment, and that this is really a way to extend that love of gardening and of plants, and a legacy for other people to enjoy that love too.
It's to the community, and it is used by the community, yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I appreciate this so much.
Thank you.
Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yackel Jolene, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHill.org.